Now on the Georgia Vote, full speed ahead to the runoff election. Early voting is underway in some Georgia counties as candidates make their latest stops on the road to November.
Who will lead Fulton County's commission? 2 candidates for 1 job. We have interviews with both in the next 30 minutes.
And the Trump administration weighs in on MARTA security. We'll talk about it with our Politics Roundtable. That's all right now on the Georgia Vote.
From the 11 Alive studios, this is the Georgia Vote with Faith Jesse and Zach Merchant.
Well, good morning and welcome in. Early voting is now underway in some metro Atlanta counties. And for everybody else, you can start voting beginning tomorrow.
That's right. It all leads up to the runoff elections on June 16th. That is now only 9 days away. And at the top of your ballot, the Republican Party runoff for U.S. Senate. That comes down to U.S. Representative Mike Collins and Derek Dooley. The 2 men debating each other last Sunday afternoon, and they've been very busy on the campaign trail ever since. Congressman Collins making several stops on Monday, including at the Fayette County Republican Party headquarters. Joining him was fellow Republican Congressman Brian Jack from Georgia's 3rd District. Well, we asked Collins about having the endorsement of Representative Jack.
It's just amazing to see the people that understand how important this election it is, how important it is that we show this country that we are a red state, and we're going to make sure that we put a Republican in that seat in November.
Derek Dooley's weekend got off to a very busy start. He made multiple campaign stops Saturday. We caught up with the candidate yesterday morning at the GOP breakfast in Gwinnett County.
Congress isn't working for the people, and it's about time we send somebody up there who not only has a little common sense, not only shares our Georgia values, but more importantly, they're going up there for the right reasons. They're not going to chase a long political career. They're not going to get rich or famous on cable news. They're going up there to work with others to deliver results for the Georgia people, and that's been my promise from day one.
The race for governor is now down to 3 prominent candidates. Keisha Lance Bottoms has the Democratic Party nomination wrapped up. The Republican nomination will take a little bit more time to be decided. That's going to happen on the June 16th runoff, and it will either be Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones or healthcare executive Rick Jackson. We saw both of those candidates this past Monday, but in very different venues. Jones at the Atlanta Press Club's Loudermilk Young debate. Jackson represented by an empty podium. He skipped the debate, citing a scheduling conflict. We're going to have more on where he was instead in a moment. Meanwhile, Jones had the most votes in the primary election and has the endorsement of President Donald Trump. Jones responded to a question about how he can win over swing voters who are not comfortable with the current administration in Washington.
At the end of the day, I'm talking about lowering your cost of living by trying to cut income and property taxes. I'm talking about educational opportunities for our youth. I'm talking about economic development for our state as a whole. I'm talking about working on workforce development for people to have good paying jobs when they get out here. And then I'm talking about public safety, keeping our streets safe. I don't think, it doesn't matter if you're Republican or Democrat or independent, those things that I truly believe in at my core are things that resonate with anybody.
Earlier that same day, Rick Jackson rallied with supporters in Kennesaw. Joining him there was Florida Republican Senator Rick Scott, who says his story is similar to Jackson's, a former businessman who ran for governor. Scott won that race in Florida back in 2010. Later, he was elected to the U.S. Senate. Jackson made several promises at Monday's rally.
I know many Georgia families are feeling squeezed. From gas to groceries, everything costs more. And property taxes are still out of control. I know what it's like to go without food and do without. That's why I'm pledging to make Georgia the most affordable state in the nation.
So while there is still some uncertainty at the top of the ballot for Republicans, Democrats, they're pretty much smooth sailing at this point. Keisha Lance Bottoms is the nominee for governor. Senator Jon Ossoff awaits his Republican opponent. And we saw the 2 together last weekend at a rally in Atlanta. And according to them, we can expect to see more of them as a duo between now and November. In their speeches, they focused on affordability, expanding Medicaid, and going on the attack against President Donald Trump. The senator and former Atlanta mayor hope to energize people to vote in November.
Atlanta, we will win with a coalition that extends far beyond party lines. Because this campaign's not just for Democrats. It's for everyone who sees things spiraling out of our control, who longs for sanity and competence and sees the same old politics failing.
We're going to vote from the top of the ballot to the bottom of the ballot to make sure we are electing leaders who are putting Georgians first.
Always a lot to discuss in Georgia politics. This is a good time to bring in our political roundtable. Joining us today, we have Republican strategist Deanna Harris. She serves as managing partner at Midnight Rider Consulting and is a one-time Republican nominee for Georgia House District 41. Also with us today, Democrat Deborah Shigley, a political commentator and a former candidate for the Georgia State Senate. And with us today as well, Donnell Suggs, editor-in-chief at the Atlanta Voice. He's written for, among others, the Atlanta Business Chronicle, Atlanta Magazine, and ESPN's The Undefeated, and we should note as well, all returning panelists. Guys, it is good to have you on another Sunday morning.
Thank you. That's right. And Deborah, I want to start things off with you. Even though we know that the Republicans are really focused top of the ballot in these runoffs, Democrats also paying very close attention. When it comes to keeping that motivation to November, are Democrats trying to convince swing voters, or are they simply trying to get people who voted the last couple of times, at least in the Senate and governor's races, to come out again?
Well, we certainly have a lot of momentum. I mean, coming off the primaries, there were more Democratic ballots across the state than there were Republican ballots. So we already have that sort of built-in energy. And this was a great rally this week, showing unity at the top of the ticket. And we are trying to get people motivated, excited, and there's a lot going on that makes people want to get involved.
Deanna, for Republicans, when you look at that rally Deborah just pointed out, there's kind of a split screen here, where on the Republican side, there's still these primary runoff now battles that are increasingly becoming pretty intense between the two candidates that are left. On the Democratic side, they get to kind of sit back and coalesce. Does that give them a long-term advantage, or by the time September and October roll around, are we going to be looking back on this moment and say things have equalized since then?
I think things will equalize. Again, Republicans are spending a lot more money than what we really expected, so it's no telling of what is to come in the future for November. So I would still like to make sure that Democrats stay on their toes and stay ready, because once we get there, it's going to be a tough uphill battle for them, for sure, especially for the top of the ticket.
Donnell, you want to weigh in on that?
I think the rally was a sample size of just taking your best position, taking your two most popular candidates, and then just getting them in front of folks to maybe galvanize some other folks who are maybe all-star people but not bottoms people, or bottoms people not all-star people. That's what I heard from a lot of people in the crowd.
Can I follow up on that, Donnell? Were you surprised at all that both the bottoms campaign and the off-off campaign, so quickly came out and essentially said, we're going to be a duo here in the campaign trail?
After it was over with, Keisha Lance Bottoms came out and talked to the media, and she was surprised how fast, she used the words galvanize, the party galvanized this and got them both together. So if she's surprised, I'm most certainly surprised.
Deanna, I want to ask you, going towards the Senate race, we know that Governor Brian Kemp still has not, the governor's race, Governor Brian Kemp has not endorsed a candidate in either one of these candidates for this. Is this a sign that he's just staying out of it to let the voters decide, or is it a sign that the Georgia Republican Party hasn't decided who they want to lead them after Governor Kemp? Usually
they try to stay out of it and let the voters decide, be a little bit more neutral, especially the party. Party politics don't usually take positions in the primary. But moving forward, I know that the governor and the party will get behind whoever we elect as a nominee for sure.
And we have seen that dynamic be playing out in this race. We've seen ads for both Burt Jones and Rick Jackson. We talked about it earlier in the program, that if you're watching it not too closely, they seem to imply that both of those candidates have the backing of the governor.
Yeah.
In actuality, the governor is not endorsed in that governor's race at all. Deborah, I want to bring you in on the Democrats' perspective. We hear a lot in Georgia about those famous Kemp-Warnock voters, these swing voters, these independent voters in Georgia. Governor Brian Kemp is a very popular politician in our state and is popular with some segment of Democrats as well. When you look ahead to the general election, what do you think Democrats are going to need to do to win the support of some of those famed Kemp-Warnock voters?
Well, certainly the political climate right now is very open to folks going to the other side. I mean, people are very upset about the cost of living. They're very upset about inflation, the price of gas. All of these issues are kind of naturally allowing people to say, maybe I want something different. And in fact, Republicans have been in control of this, the trifecta, right, of the governorship and both houses of the state legislature here for many years. And now is a chance to change.
And it's even a strategy on the Republican side, because you have some of this establishment, as Deborah was alluding to the outsiders.
Right. So one of the ads that I did hear was that Governor Kemp is an outsider, which is not really true. I mean, he's went from the legislature to the executive branch. And some things that they're saying and blaming on the legislature, like property taxes, which is more of a local issue than it would be a state issue. And the state has tried to put forth and figure things out, how to minimize the rise on property taxes. And they've also reduced the state income tax, which I think will be something that they can really use to speak on for messaging.
We'll certainly have to see what drives momentum. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back after this commercial. Welcome back. Well, one of the many races we are watching between now and June 16th is the Democratic Party runoff for the chair of the Fulton County Commission.
The incumbent here is Chairman Rob Pitts, but he finished second in the primary to Commissioner Mo Ivory. The two are now on the ballot, and the winner of the runoff will likely also win the job full-time in November. This week, our very own Jonathan Martin talked with both candidates about pressing issues in Fulton County, like the jail and elections. We begin with the incumbent, Chairman Rob Pitts.
So one of the big issues in this race is the Fulton County Jail. I think most voters would agree it is in crisis. You have supported not building a new jail, but renovating the current one and adding a medical facility. You feel a new one would be way too expensive. Is that the best long-term solution for Fulton County?
Absolutely. To renovate the existing jail, but to build a medical facility on the same footprint. Why medical facility? Because 70% of the detainees in our jail, male and female, have one of two problems, either a substance abuse problem or a mental issue. So we're going to be treating those with 1,500 beds. Building a brand new jail that would have a capacity of some 4,000 or 5,000 new beds. Who's going to be in those beds? Black and brown men. That's not going to happen. I'd rather spend that money that we would use building a brand new jail, $2 billion plus, on spending that money up front to prevent them going to jail in the first place.
Okay, the elections also a major topic in Fulton County. We know that elections here in Fulton County have been under scrutiny by the federal government, including President Trump himself and some of his allies. What will you be doing as chair to protect the elections and the overall voter integrity?
Everything that we've done in the past, our elections have been open, they've been fair, and they've been transparent, and I've guaranteed the public, the voting public, that you have nothing to worry about. They will be again. We've had some 17 elections, successful elections since 2020. No problems. Most recent one, we get an A+. I will do everything in my power to protect democracy and to protect the voters and their personal identification from President Trump and his allies.
One of the big problems that you mentioned is the jail. I think most voters would agree that the Fulton County Jail is in crisis. Your opponent believes that we should renovate the jail, but you believe a long-term solution is building a new jail. Why is that the right investment for taxpayers?
Sure. Well, first let me clear something up, which is always a problem with information in Fulton County. We're already building a new jail. Chairman Pitts has already, and the commission has already voted on a new jail in that $1.3 billion vote that took place several weeks ago. They like to call it a special purpose building. It's a new jail. And it is going to have a medical facility that we already should have had. So it's really disingenuous to keep saying, I don't want to renovate the jail. I don't want to build a new jail. I want to renovate the jail, not build a new jail, when he's already voted to build a new jail. The question is now what to do with the Rice Street jail as this new jail is being built alongside the property. And I believe you tear that down and build in place of there so we don't have an overcrowding problem.
Another big issue, Ms. Ivory, is the election system here in Fulton County. We know that Fulton County's elections have faced a lot of scrutiny, including from the federal government, President Trump himself. How do you, as commission chair, feel that you would keep the public trust while also balancing integrity of the elections as well?
Yeah, I mean, we don't really have an elections problem in Fulton County. We administer elections very well. You just saw a whole election was administered very well during the primary, and we've done plenty of elections between the time of 2020 and now. We have a Trump problem, and so it's not really an elections problem. But the most important thing to keep the trust of citizens and to keep integrity is to be transparent and to give them the information that they need. So that's the reason why I open up my camera. I use my social media to tell people what is going on. And I intend to be a very different kind of chair, one that brings people into government instead of keeping them out of it. And that's what I've been doing, and that's what I will continue to do.
And that was just a part of the full interviews with both Mo Ivory and Rob Pitts. You can watch those full interviews right now on any of your streaming platforms, and you can download 11 Alive on your TV to stream. It is absolutely free.
All right, we are back with our panel. Zach, I believe you have a question to fire off.
Yeah, I think we have a lot of questions here anytime we're talking about Georgia politics. And in particular, we're talking about this Fulton County Commission Chair race. Donnell, I want to start with you. We saw some differences on the policy in those interviews. If you watch the full interview, this is a shameless plug to do it, you also saw some real kind of tense words between the two candidates in those interviews. This has become a tense race in the runoff here. Donnell, what are you hearing from voters when you talk to them about what's going on here?
If you're going with Rob Pitts, you're going with the status quo and someone who's been doing this a long time. And Mo Ivory is a way for you to kind of veer to the right or get off the exit and try something new because she's not done this before. And that's what I'm getting from people. They like her because she's different, but she's also from up north, so they kind of take it a certain way. And Rob Pitts has been doing it so long, you think if you want something different, why would you elect the same person? So it's...
I mean, almost 50 years for Chairman Rob Pitts in elected politics here. Is that an asset or is that a hindrance for him?
It should be an asset, normally, if someone's got that much experience. But again, we also have people in certain positions in the White House, per se, who don't have experience and they got it, and now they do have it. You can only get it by getting it.
I'm curious too, and obviously this race is in Fulton County, so for those who don't live in Fulton County, you won't be voting on this. But as we look over broader, because I asked you about this in the last one, this kind of establishment versus this new candidate. Deanna, let me bring you in on this. Are you seeing that play out in any of these other races?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily suggest new outside candidates who don't necessarily have the experience, especially when it comes to managing a budget as large as Fulton County's. That's one of the main priorities of every elected official, from county commission to the state legislature, is the budget. And how much money that comes in and out of Fulton County with their taxes and all the different things that they have to manage, including the issues with the jail, right? $1 billion to build a new jail is kind of like, wow, you know, that's huge, especially for the residents who live there, who are technically responsible for this payment. So that's something where I find interesting, where maybe establishment might be a little bit better than somebody who's new and they don't really understand that process when it comes to it.
It'll certainly come down to the messaging. One of the issues rather, is transportation.
Yeah, and a big development in the transportation front this week. As many of you know, this past week, the federal government announced it is launching an investigation into MARTA's safety practices. This comes after 2 violent attacks that came in less than a week from each other. We're going to talk about it with our panel in just a moment, but first, our Grace King shows us what we can expect from this federal investigation.
The Federal Transit Administration says it's looking at whether systemic conditions exist that endanger the public or the transit workforce who ride and rely on MARTA. As MARTA gears up for the start of the World Cup, U.S. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy is ordering the Federal Transit Administration to investigate MARTA's security spending, safety plans, and response to crime, just days after 2 separate stabbing incidents. In a letter to MARTA's interim CEO, federal officials say the agency's rate of serious personal security incidents is nearly twice the national average, so they want details on crime reduction efforts, fare evasion enforcement, security funding, and MARTA's response to previous federal safety directives. The letter is dated June 3rd, the same day MARTA released this pre-recorded video referencing the stabbing death of Margaret Swan.
Violence has no place on our transit system, and the safety of our patrons and employees is our #1 priority.
This was a senseless crime, and violence will not be tolerated on MARTA.
In a statement, MARTA says it welcomes the review and pointed to major investments already in place, including 280 sworn police officers, thousands of cameras, and expanded patrols across the system. Federal officials say much of their investigation will focus on protections for transit workers because MARTA had one of the 2 transit worker deaths in the nation last year. Authorities say a group of teenagers shot and killed bus driver Leroy Ramos during a January 2025 fare dispute in Decatur. At Lindbergh Station, Grace King, 11 Alive News.
Our thanks to Grace for that package. This is something playing into safety and security, something that we constantly hear from politicians. Deborah, let me ask you about this. Is this something that could hurt Democrats? And how do they move forward from now a federal investigation into random attacks on MARTA here in Atlanta?
Well, it is concerning. I mean, it's a very dramatic and very sad attack that has happened, and I think people are concerned. I mean, safety is one of the top concerns for any elections. In this situation, seeing the federal government kind of encroach on what the local government is doing, it kind of fits the narrative of this election in general, that there's a lot of overreach from the Trump administration into the business of Georgia politics. I would like to see the mayor and the local government of Atlanta really to fix the situation and make sure we are doing what we can to keep people safe.
And Deanna, I mean, is this seen as, is this federal overreach?
I would think so. It's given more Big Brother, and I'm never a fan of that type of situation. It's like she said, it's best to let the local and state government handle it. And I'd also like to see if they're doing these investigations in other cities where they're having FIFA, like New York, for example, and New Jersey.
15 seconds. Last word to you, Donnell. We just saw a Democrat and a Republican agree on this. Is MARTA, is transit, is safety an issue that cuts across party lines?
I'm going to agree with the ladies. It really isn't a thing here in Atlanta. That's unfortunate what happened to Ms. Swan. It's unfortunate anytime anybody gets hurt on public transportation, but that really isn't an issue at MARTA. It happens. Things happen when you put public together. But I don't think that we should have the federal government involved at all.
All right, always a lot to discuss when we're talking about Georgia politics, Metro Atlanta politics, politics around the country. We're going to continue this discussion right after the break. Stay with us.
Hey, welcome back. So we've talked a lot this morning about the governor's race, and in some counties, early voting began yesterday. As Georgia voters start going to the polls, they'll be making their choices without getting to see two Republican candidates, Burt Jones and Rick Jackson, debate one-on-one.
11 Alive News invited the candidates to a debate broadcast right here and on our partner stations all across Georgia. Jones agreed. His campaign said he would clear his schedule and show up for a debate any day before voters begin casting ballots. We offered the Jackson campaign their pick of dates between June 1st and June 5th. They declined. In a phone call, Jackson campaign spokesman Brian Robinson said, quote, "We've accepted a debate on June 14th. Now, that debate was proposed by Atlanta News First, but it is unlikely to happen. Jones has declined to debate after early voting ends, and June 14th is 2 days after the early voting window closes. So on Wednesday, we asked the Jackson campaign if they would debate next week during the early voting window on any day, Monday through Friday. Again, their spokesman referred us to their June 14th or nothing stance.
Back in April, the two candidates participated in a crowded primary debate with a total of 8 candidates. But if things stay the same, Republican voters will not get to see the two runoff contenders debate one-on-one before the June 16th election day.
Stay with us. We are back in 2 minutes. All right, another busy day of Georgia politics. Thank you so much for watching us today.
That's right. We hope to see you back here next Sunday at 11 for another edition of the Georgia Vote.